Johann Sebastian Bach. The masterpieces of Johann Sebastian Bach, 1685 to 1750, marked the high point of Baroque music. Bach came from a long line of musicians and passed on his musical heritage. Four of his sons were considered composers. He began his musical career as a church organist and then as a court organist and later concertmaster of the court orchestra in Weimar. His most lucrative and prestigious post was the court conductor for the Prince of Cothen. This was the first time in Bach's career that he was not involved with church or organ music. For the 6 years from 1717 to 1723, Bach directed the Prince's small orchestra. The Brandenburg concertos grew out of this production period. Bach's next position was a cantor or music director of the St. Thomas Church in Leipzig, a position that involved responsibility for Leipzig's four main municipal churches. Bach remained here for the last 27 years of his life. He rehearsed, conducted, and usually composed an extended composition for chorus, soloist, and orchestra for each Sunday and holiday in the church year. He was responsible for the musical education of some 55 students at the St. Thomas School. After some years in Leipzig, he became the director of the Leipzig Collegium Musicum, a student organization that gave concerts every Friday night at a coffee house. He was also the eminent teacher of organ compositions and gave organ recitals. He was often asked to judge the construction of organs. In his last 5 years, Bach's eyesight deteriorated, yet he continued to compose, conduct, and teach. In 1750, the year of his death, he became blind. Bach was a deeply religious man. His love of music was so great that as a young man, he would walk up to 30 miles to hear a famous organist. He was married twice and had 20 children, of whom 9 survived him and 4, as noted above, became well-known musicians. He was little known outside of Germany, and by the time of his maturity, the Baroque style had started to go out of fashion, and many people thought his works were too heavy, complex, and polyphonic. His music was largely forgotten for years after his death, though a few later composers were aware of his genius. But in 1829, Felix Mendelssohn presented the St. Matthew's Passion, and Bach's music became popular again. Bach's music. Bach created masterpieces in every Baroque form except opera. Throughout, he fused technical mastery and emotional depth. His instrumental music includes pieces for orchestra, for small groups, and for solo organ, harpsichord, clavichord, violin, and cello. Bach's vocal music, the bulk of his output, was written mostly for the Lutheran Church and was often based on familiar hymns. Bach's music is unique in its combination of polyphonic texture and rich harmony. By Bach's time, there was little difference in style between secular and sacred music. In fact, he often created sacred music simply by rearranging instrumental pieces or works originally written for secular texts. His church music also uses operatic forms, like the aria and the recitative. Sometimes Bach composed music to demonstrate what he could do with a specific form. An example of this is the Art of the Fugue. It displays all the resources of fugue writing, or a particular instrument, for instance, his suites for cello solo, his well-tempered clavier collection of 48 preludes and fugues, 2 in each major key and each minor key, was composed to explain and demonstrate the system of tuning. The title means, roughly, the well-tuned keyboard instrument.